Let's begin by creating the macro which will interact with the user and then display the user form. So let's go into the exercises folder and open up Document Builder. This is basically a blank Word document, but as you can see it has the file extension docm, so it's a macro enabled document. I'll go into Developer and Visual Basic. To create the macro, simply right click on the project, the Document Builder project, and insert a module. Let's rename the module. Just use the Properties window, choose in View Properties window if necessary, and let's call the module Doc Builder. And now let's create a macro with the same name. And let's start our code. To interact with the user, we're going to be using the File Dialog object. This object is part of the Microsoft Office library. Let's just go into View, Object Browser, and have a look at how it works. If I start in the Word library, the File Dialog object is available as a property of all of the application objects. So whether you're in Excel, Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, if you go into Application, you'll always find that there's a property called File Dialog. However, when you drill down inside it, let's click, for example, on File Dialog, you'll notice that you switch across to the Office library. So it is actually part of Microsoft Office, but it's available to all of the applications in the Office suite. It has a series of properties and a couple of methods. The most important properties for our purposes are, first of all, the dialog type. This is specified when you create an instance of the File Dialog object. If I click here at the bottom on MSO File Dialog Type, we can have a look at the different types. So File Picker, Folder Picker, Open and Save. And of course the one that we'll need is a Folder Picker. Let's just hit the back button. We can also use the title property to guide the user as to what they're supposed to do when the dialog appears. Once we've got that set up, we'll use the show method to make the dialog visible. And looking at the help text at the bottom, you'll notice that show is basically a function which returns a long as its return value. If you want to learn a bit more about the File Dialog object, remember you can just highlight it here and click on Help. So we had the show method highlighted and we've got a description of how it works. Here's a description of the long values that it returns. If the user clicks the Action button, so in our case that's going to be the OK button, the function returns -1. If they click the Cancel button, the function returns 0. Okay, so let's return to our code window and we'll declare two variables to handle the file dialog. So first of all, let's declare DLG import, and this is as file dialog. Then to store the answer returned by the show method, we'll dim LNG dialog as long. So let's now anticipate the three steps that we're going to perform. First of all, we're going to inform the user what our application does. Next, we're going to obtain the location of the folder which contains all the text files that we're going to be importing. And then finally, we need to evaluate the user response to find out whether they've clicked the cancel or the OK button. So here we can put a simple message box using the prompt. This macro will create a document. All the text files found in the specified folder. Then let's split the line and continue with a couple of returns. So VBCR ampersand VBCR, and then we can say click OK, then select the folder containing the text files. So now we need to use our DLG import file dialog variable, and because it's an object variable, we use the keyword set. Equal to application.file dialog. And when you use this property, you need to, in parentheses, you need to specify the type. And you'll see that the IntelliSense makes it very easy to remember the syntax. You just choose the one that you need, which in this case is the folder picker. Now we can specify the title. And finally, use the show method to make the dialog visible. So this time we need to use our LNG dialog variable, which of course is a long integer variable, so we use let rather than set, which can simply be omitted. So let LNG dialog equal DLG import dot show. So this is a dialog which will sit on screen until the user dismisses it by clicking cancel or OK. So now we need a simple if statement to verify which one they've clicked. So it's -1 for OK and 0 for cancel. Hence we say if LNG dialog equals -1, then, and what we want to do at this point is to record the address, the string, which specifies the location of the chosen folder. Because we'll need this string in the user form as well as in this macro, we'll make it a public variable. So if we declare it at the top here, public, and we'll use gstr, G to indicate that it's global or public, and folder as string. So now we can populate our string variable from DLG import. So let gstr folder equal DLG import, and the property which does this is selected items. Notice that it's plural, because one of the things you can do is to allow the user to select multiple items. We haven't chosen to do that, so we know we'll only have one item, but it's still stored in an array. Unlike some arrays, this one, however, has a base of 1 rather than 0. So the one and only item in the array can be referenced by using parentheses with a 1 inside. Once we've got the values stored, we'll then make our user form visible. So at this stage, I'm just going to create a blank user form, give it a name, and then we can test our macro. So to insert it, I right click on the project, and this time insert user form. While it's still active, I'll change the name to FRM docs, and then just close the user form window to return to my macro. So now I can say frmdocs.show. Okay, so let's save our macro and then test it. And I've made a simple error. I haven't finished my if statement. So let me just tab these two in and pop in the end if, reset, and test. Here's our MSG box. When we click OK, the file dialog kicks in, and here's the title that we specified at the top. So if I go to desktop, update, and into the text folder, well, in fact, there are two things I can test. One is OK. So if I click OK, it doesn't really matter which folder I've gone to because we're not testing for that as yet. Here's our blank user form, and then I'll just run it one more time, and this time test the cancel button, and nothing happens, which is fine. So what we can now say is else. We'll display a message, MSG box, and set the prompt to operation cancelled by user. And then we'll use the end statement to terminate our macro. So now let's test the cancel button again. And there's our message, operation cancelled by user. So that's our basic interactivity with the user. In the next video, we'll move on to setting up the user form.